Hi, I'm Sean.
I'm Renee.
This is Hope in Crisis, a new podcast series about rights and democracy and how technology can enable or disable it.
Listen to Hope in Crisis on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen to your podcast. So we have a very special guest today. He worked at the KMT's Youth League. Maybe I should give our audience some heads up. So KMT is one of the two major political parties in Taiwan. And in my perspective, it's more pro-China. So it's more friendly to China. Are you excited to talk to this guy?
I think it's cool because, of course, most of the people around us are not
Pro-China.
sort of pro-China or not pro-KMT. So I always like to get the other perspective. And I hope we can learn a lot from him.
Yeah, I like to do this for the sake of diversity. I'm pretty proud of myself today.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to asking him sort of why would somebody that's the youth want to join the more conservative, more traditional party? Mm-hmm. What did he hope to learn from it? What did he hope to change about it? And also, I think it would be neat to understand how he sees the mainland China right now and the role of mainland China and Taiwan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how, as a young person, can lead changes or facilitate changes.
Yeah, he's part of the Youth League, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should ask him about what was that like.
Okay, let's welcome him.
Great.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to welcome Alfred to our show, Hope in Crisis.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. Hello, guys.
Alfred, it's great to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Can we start with like your own story? So,
wow, that's a long story. I'm trying to make the long story short because...
make a short story long is good too.
Oh, really?
We have time.
Okay. I'm trying to do this in a backward style. Last year, I just finished my master degree in New York University, majoring in international relations. And the reason why I went there is that because before that, I was working in government and political party, Kuomintang, Chinese Nationalist Party. During that, there's still a ruling party. I served as KNT. Youth League chief and spokesman's help for president. Yeah, and speech writers. One of his personal speech writers. So that's an awesome experience for young people less than 26 years old. And what you wrote tonight will become the word come out president's mouth tomorrow morning. Yeah, that's quite.
What
awesome.
did that feel like?
It's like you really have an ability to make world move, to change this world. Yeah, even the salary is poor. Yeah.
What did you write about? What was the most exciting that you ever wrote about?
Oh wow, just like daily scrub, daily speech scrub. Every person schedule his meeting, some group about charity, student or military camp. So different schedule, different issue, different areas. So you have to prepare different speech from. It's like I think I'm like a factory in the end of line because before the line there's so many different departments in the government, economy. Internal affairs, something like that, and they will put the basic element, ingredient to me, and I'm the final chef to make it something.
You would get all of these
tasteful.
raw materials and you had to mix it into something that
something
people thought
tasteful.
tasted good, right?
Yeah.
What
Just like that?
What was like? Can you walk us through that process a bit? Like, what would you be thinking about? Like what? Like how would you combine that stuff? Like what style chef were you?
Well, I'm trying to be actually personally, I'm an idealistic people, but in the political business, in this circle, you must be really realistic. Yeah, you must feel reality, and you must reflect the reality into your work. So you cannot say something fantasy. You must take responsibility to every word because every word counts. Yeah, so I think from the beginning it's a little tough for me, but afterward I think I'm a good speechwriter. So anyone want to hire me? Here's open. Yeah.
She's the translator. You're the speechwriter.
Yeah.
Could be a good team.
Well, I really admire the translator, especially those people from the MOFA, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They are awesome. They're awesome.
Were you involved with that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like 13 years ago. So 13 years ago, when I was working in the foreign ministry, we worked with speechwriters.
Oh.
So they produce the script in Chinese, and then overnight we have to turn them into English or Japanese or Spanish or French or German.
Yeah. Wow. So I want to go a bit deeper into this.
Usually we don't like them.
You don't like the speechwriters?
Because they're so slow, and then which means that we don't have enough time to produce our translation. So we're like the deadline is like really short because of.
Oh yeah, I actually usually it's for if there is some special event. For example, you must meet some ambassador or official
envoy.
Envoy from Japan or United States secretly. Usually we have 1 week before we pass our script to the next schedule. So I don't know who the speechwriter you are working with, but that's a pity.
So you get a week and she'd get like
usually
3 hours. Yeah.
That's just 3 hours. Oh my God, you're awesome.
So what was the most impressive or most exciting thing that you ever wrote about?
Yeah, actually, of course, there's so many touching moments. For example, the person I met with Chairman Xi in 2016. I involving just a little.
So now you're going to talk about something that's very different from 汉贼不两立 on the political spectrum, right? Ma Ying-jeou and Xi Jinping.
Yeah,
They were meeting.
Yeah, they were meeting. But
can you slow it down? So why were they meeting? What was this about?
Because when countries was still a ruling party, they trying to make cross-strait relation peaceful, and they can have a dialogue to keep promoting the mutual understanding in a peaceful way. No war, no fighting. We can put the political controversy aside. For example, who is the real China? Yeah, just put it aside. Let's talk about doing business. Let's talk about people want to go in college in Beijing, and mainland students want to learn some traditional Chinese culture in Taipei or around Taiwan. They can feel a different atmosphere in another Chinese society that implies true democracy in the world. Yeah, that's an amazing thing. So I think actually that's the main point when President Xi and President Xi and President Ma meet. Even though they didn't call each other as president, they just call each other Mister to avoid some controversial political argument. But I think the meeting itself, the process, is meaningful. It's meaningful.
So can you take us through in your head when you were preparing this speech? So first off, like what was the speech about, and what were you thinking? Like what were some of these ingredients that you thought were really good you wanted to mix in?
Yeah, I still trying.
Do you remember that still?
To ringing a bells about funeral thing, because person they have to attend the ceremony, and I still remember the people is one of the important historical event survivor and their offspring, one of them. So president have to go, and actually that's just like a daily and normal schedule, nothing special. But when I wrote every single page of the funeral speech, I trying to search these people's life, the whole footprint of this man over decades, what he did and what he done to Taiwan, to this land, and I'm trying to make and shorten his life in just one page. And after that day, next to the funeral, I got a call from those men's family, and she say, "Thanks so much, very, very deep and very much to for what I did to promote those people's life from president's mouth, and they feel so honored. Actually, there's one thing important and impressive in my working time during the president office. It's not that kind of thing compared to President Xi and Ma's meeting, historical. It's just a daily people's funeral. But actually, I think the later is, for me personally, is more important than something historical thing, because it's daily matter. It's people's daily life. Yeah, they touch me.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I can understand that a president's homage is very important to normal people. Like one of my friends who's celebrating her grandma's 100th birthday.
Oh wow.
And then she asked me if there's any way for her grandma to receive a birthday card or a birthday wish from the president. And actually there is. So there is a department in the presidential office. There's a website, and then you can just fill in your information.
Yes.
And then the president will send you something.
Yeah, but usually it's not
When you're over 80
personally-
years old. I mean, not everyone can do that.
Yeah, but I should not do this. But actually, I still gonna speaking the truth that usually not every page or every letter or every name card the president will review personally. Maybe it's one of another basic label staff to write it down and put president's name on it.
The president signs it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And person even know that things happen. You know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Personal himself maybe didn't realize those schedule or those working process. So still, that's how we run in a country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You said something about like ideology and reality, or you didn't use reality. You said realistic, right?
Yeah.
Can you explain a bit more about why you think like being realistic is so important, and there's too much sort of idealistic thought? Like this seems to be something that's very important to you.
Yeah, I'm trying to involve this philosophic topic into my political career, because from the beginning, it just happened 10 years ago when I was 20. It's the first time I joined KNT. Mm-hmm. Yeah, during that time, the President Ma still chairman of KNT, and the whole atmosphere and image, public image of KNT is positive. It's young and vivid and not corrupt anymore than before. So there are so many young people back in that time. If you ask people now, a younger generation, why do you join the KNT? Yeah, people always like that. Why do you join KNT? People ask me. But put this back then to 10 or 15 years ago, people doing this in an opposite way. People will, why do you join DPP? I lose your mind. Because back in that time, I know so many young generation don't know about that. The DPP's image is represent something anti-intellectual, irrational, Taiwan independence. Back in that, Taiwan independence is still not a comprehensive supporting things. Yeah, but so and back in that, KNT represents some regional and experience with how to run a country, and we can do the peaceful relationship with Mainland China. In an equal way, something like that. So that's the reason why from the beginning, when I was still idealistic to join the KNT, and with a lot of people, younger staff in last generation. But when you go into the process, when you step into the poll, I mean the political poll, you will see something behind the image. You will still start to find out so many image in public agenda, or I won't say that it's propaganda, but something behind the public image is dirty and cruel, and sometimes, I have to say many times, your ideals, let's take idea, cannot be implemented in that particular area. For example, I still remember one of our topics about the digital wave, and 7 years ago, when I was still working in KNT, I mentioned and proposed a project to my chief, because I still remember the year before that, 2012, President Obama and Democratic Party just won their re-election, and one of the way they use the volunteer apps to locate it and find who is Obama supporter and potential Democratic Party's voter. So they use the apps to locate and find them and promote the volunteer one by one door by the next, to knock the door and encouraging them to vote. That's a very good example about how you combine the virtual and real world and doing the online and offline integration. Yeah, I was so inspiring by that. So I write a proposal and make it to my chief, but my chief doesn't understand what's the importance about this.
What did you propose? What did you want to build?
Yeah, I still want to build a very similar project, just like the Democratic did. That's app. You can when the user log in, we can have your data, for example, your location, your bank data, how old are you, where you live, what's your job, something like that. So we can build a model. Yeah, it's already more popular this time. We can build a model of who is our voter, what other looks like. Then I will know how to send the different political message precisely to every voter and promote them to vote when we have an election or when we gonna promote some good candidate in the area they are living.
So it's basically a mobilization app.
Yeah.
You use it to mobilize people. What do you think about the app?
So, yeah, can you talk more about like how does the app work? Like how do you find these people? I actually don't even know how Obama's app worked. So if
Were
you can kind of
in the state?
I was not in the States.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
I voted,
Uh-huh.
but definitely they're not targeting me because I'm outside the country.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, for example, when you use Uber,
Yeah.
how Uber company located every car. They have a GPS or something else, right? So you can use a mobile app to find out to locate it. Maybe next door, when I was registering the apps, maybe the next door, oh my God, I found out my neighbor is also the voter of KNT. Yeah, then I will know where is our potential supporter
Okay, so
is.
eventually you didn't build the app, right? You said that your chief didn't like the idea.
Yeah, they
Okay.
don't understand what the importance is, and it's not a priority for them at that time. So I feel a little disappointed.
How did they do it before?
Nothing.
Oh.
Nothing.
Oh.
Now,
Okay.
do you
there's
know much
no
about how the U.S. works? Like, does the U.S. like before Obama?
Because actually, 7 years ago,
Yeah.
which is still a very new idea. So I can understand why my chief back in data they don't understand that, and even DPP had not made their own apps back in that time. But I already have a sense of feeling that it's digital wave. It's coming, and it's gonna change the whole political circle, how we send message to our voter and electoral technology, how these things happening. But
So 7 years later, if you still have the chance, do you want to build an app?
Actually, I already leave, so but I'm happy to see recently that they build out their own apps. It's called Digital Party Department. Yeah, 数位党部. So I think it's better than nothing. Sooner or later, you're gonna be a star. Even though I think it's a little too late, but it's a star. So I'm happy for KNT. Yeah, 7 years later, finally you got something. Yeah.
So if you want to build an app for political purposes, like mobilizing people, rally people, or inviting people to go to campaigns, what kind of features do you want, or what kind of safety measures or privacy protocols do you think that should be set up? Because I'm not sure if it's a good idea for people to identify themselves as a Republican or a Democrat in the United States, or a KMT or DPP supporter on an app, and then allowing neighbors to know that, hey, I'm here. You can mobilize me.
Yeah, I understand what you're talking about because I see doubts in your eyes. Yeah, and I think there is a very many detail to prevent us from damage. Because of course, if there is apps just like what you say, maybe black hat hacker can hack in the apps and know your personal data. That's a public topic. Is emerging in Taiwanese society, and we are talking about because I think our government gonna promote a new EID next year. Actually, so many scholars, so many professor and specialists trying to collaborate to against that, because they don't think right now for Taiwan society or government we have enough ability to keep us, prevent us from the outside damage. If we would really build a nationwide database of our everyone's banking account, your ID, your personal privacy, something like that. So I agree with you what you're talking about. But when we use apps application to doing some political goal, I think there's still some make sure we don't have to use, or you have to get access or the agreement from the user. But in this society, ask yourself whether you read every single line of the agreement before. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think anybody
people,
reads these
I
things.
don't think everybody used that. So back in West, we can say we can already see some bad example happen. For example, Cambridge Analytica. Yeah, in 2016, how they manipulate the misinformation or spread of disinformation, something like that, or they trying to make some bubble to make people just still receive the message they like, just like ads. But that's commercial. But when it gets in political, they will become next day will be personal. Then that will be a access of damage to our personal life. I don't think actually I'm new in this area, but actually I'm worried about those people talking about. So I totally agree with your concern on this area, on this topic.
I read an article, somebody on our team shared it with me today about you. And
what?
Yeah. And I had to translate it, Google Translate, to understand most of it. So
What's that about?
Well, it was, really just about you from so many different angles and kind of your beliefs and what you're doing. And one thing that you said was that the seventh graders, they love the internet. Like the kids nowadays, the youth are growing up with the internet. And what I was really sort of interested in talking with you more about is to understand like how you see sort of governing things on the internet and governing things in the physical world, and how do these connect, and like how much of your time is spent on thinking about, let's say, Taiwan governance versus like what sort of things in Taiwan can be helpful to internet governance.
Yeah, I need to translate a little bit. By seventh grader, it means that people born in the 1980s.
Yes, millennials, right? Yeah. Like really young.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because so definitely Google Translate.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about which category that I fall into. So yes, millennials.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's one of the most important thing I noticed this year, because, for example, back to election. Do you guys still remember the last year presidential election in Taiwan? Actually, spill out our family inside, because our parents maybe support candidate A, and the children and our classmate choose the other one, and we fight, we argue about that on that topic, and I saw so many fighting inside family. I feel heartbroken, and I don't know. After that, are we still healing those wounds right now? I'm not sure, but I noticed one thing. Usually we use this term generation. We mean maybe parent and between their children. So that's about maybe 20 years to 30 years. But after Taiwan relieved the martial law 33 or 4 years ago, I noticed that this speed has been kind of faster than before, especially when we get into the cyber society, or we just start using internet. 2007, Facebook get online in Taiwan. And 2012, everyone got iPhone, mobile access to internet. That changed our perception, our point of view to the reality, because so-called information warfare. If we didn't get information, how the war begins, how those people can attack us. So I noticed these things happen. Back then, I would say the last generation or the generation before is my parent. But right now, I'm 13 years old. But the people younger than me, 5 years old, and younger than me, 10 years old, every 5 years already become a degree. The people still in college right now, starting college right now, and the people who start in graduate school or just start go out of society and starting their first work, and me, we are three different creatures.
Like 3 different generations, you feel?
Yes, we are 3 different generations.
What does that mean? Like, what's the implication of that?
Because I think the one of the most important factor is the time and timing when we first time to touch enter the internet world. Yeah, when I was young, I still remember. I like play online game in 2000. There's a very popular online game in Taiwan. More than 4 million people play that. Yeah, from your boss, from the restaurant chef, everyone play that. It's called Lineage, 天堂.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Did you play that?
No.
Yeah. Oh, you're not our generation? No, I'm kidding. I mean,
I'm afraid not.
yeah, when I was 10 years old, it's first time there's a PC game era. And when I grew up going to college, it's a mobile access era.
Yeah.
You use iPhone or the Android, something like that. But the people younger than me, 10 years old, when they was 10 or even younger, they already got iPhone. They already got iPad. The younger student in elementary school right now, they use iPad and instead of textbook. So our perception when we grown up, how our perception to the reality and this world was being cultivated in a very different form and very different way. It's not just about content; it's the way you how to know this world. So I realized that people younger than me 10 years, actually, even we have some similar background. For example, I come from Taoyuan, I live in Taipei more than 10 years. I like this, I like not. But when I meet these people, even though they have some similar background element with me, but I still can feel the difference about the perception and how we perceive and interact with this world. I don't know how to use the language to describe that feeling.
Okay, so from your perspective, right now people fall into different generations, mostly because of age and because how much exposure they have.
I think they are related.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And how does that impact or how does that affect communication or political communication?
Okay, good. I think you mentioned a very good point because right now we can see the ruling party, DPP, and the KNT right now already lose the government right. One of the biggest reason why KNT lose young generation support is that they don't know the people from international period or era what they think. Yeah, their sense of humor or the form of humor or what they care about is totally different from the last generation.
Can you give some examples?
Okay, in my generation, for example, when I was in KNT Youth League as a chief, we are the first group in KNT public announce we support same-sex marriage and some progressive value, but we still get attacked from inside the party until now. Yeah, actually, this week's news. Yeah, the new chief of KNT Youth League announced they're gonna use party's name to join the parade this weekend.
Okay, I think I need to fit in some background information here. So Taiwan has the largest gay parade in Asia, if not in the world, I think. So every year we have this Pride. It's a parade for gay rights, and KMT has
usually standing on the other side.
Right, right. And then KMT has been afraid of criticism about joining the Pride. But this week, I think it's this morning, right? The chief of KMT announced that this year they're going to partake in Pride.
Sorry, not chairman of KNT, it's KNT Youth League.
Oh, okay, okay.
Oh, the youth
The,
is
right.
Youth
So
League.
so
young
the
people.
youth support it, but the previous generation still don't support.
Yeah, they're afraid to take a public announcement because actually for now, the support front of KNT already reducing back to a more conservative and elder people. So back in their generation, they don't think same-sex marriage is something they can support. And actually, on this issue for the same-sex marriage is also not priority of KNT's public issue agenda. So many people inside the KNT, they don't think we have to do something about this. Anyway, young generation already support DPP. Let them go. We just keep our ground.
So do you
here.
think partaking in Pride is just a way to attract young people, or what does KMT Youth League think about same-sex marriage, and what does the Youth League think about human rights or basic human rights, for example, marriage or raising kids, being a parent, and so on?
Yeah, because actually, the reason why KNT Youth League stand out and join the parade is because they share the same value with this generation, except they support KNT or they maybe have very different opinions for many other public issues. But on this one, for the basic human right, for the same-sex marriage, as far as I know, the most members of KNT Youth League support this. Yeah, and actually for many years, maybe from me 7 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, we joined the parade every year. Actually, it's not something new. We're trying to attract the young people support.
So did you join the parade individually, or did you join the parade as KMT Youth League?
Actually, back my year, is officially legally is individually, but I still holding the flag of KNT. In the parade, and it's a tradition of KNT Youth League. Every year, actually, whether or not the central or high level official of KNT support or not, we just go and join. Yeah, so it's our own tradition. We belong to this younger generation. Yeah.
Can you explain a bit about like what is a youth league, and how does it work? Like how do you organize?
Okay, it was founded in 2005, I think, by the former chairman Mine Zhou, and he wanted to create a group. From my point of view, it's kind of experiment lab to attract some new thoughts and new people to join the KNT, to reform and change the KNT in a long-term way. So I think it's quite successful because back in that time, we do so many different public issues, environment, protection, and arguing democracy, and protecting Aboriginals' land, and women's rights and sex marriage, and some foreign policy in Africa. If you cover the logo of KNT, just see the poster right away, you will say, wow, this may be some grassroots foundation. This event is nothing to do with KNT, but actually that's what we did in KNT. So back in that time, back to the topic I start in this beginning, why we joined the KNT is that because KNT back in that time, they represent some part of idealistic way, so attract young people. We truly believe when we join KNT, we can reform KNT and we can make our society and country better by that way. But it's sad we failed, but it's complicated. It's so many other outside factor environment to cause all this. But KNT Youth League tradition and those people still there. Many people leave, but still many people stay and trying to change and reform KNT. I still remember there's one topic in the outline you asked me. If there is a political party who stands for ROC and also support some progressive value, for example, same-sex marriage, labor right, whether I leave KNT and join that party. Actually, back in that time, we group of political staff in KNT, we had to make a joke. If weren't cross-strait relation with the national identity, actually, we should go to Social Democratic Party. That one finally left. Because for the foreign policy or national identity, we are a little central right wing. Yeah, that's the reason why we support ROC, we join KNT. But back to internal affairs, for some public issue, especially with human rights, we are actually central left wing. Yeah. But this is also very unique in Taiwan society situation because back in, for example, UK or US, the whole political spectrum, as you mentioned, is judged by the left wing or right wing. But in Taiwan, we judge it by whether you pro unification or pro Taiwan independence. So it's complicated.
Well, I'd like to dig in this with you a bit.
Okay.
So my family is very Democrat, like super, super strong Democrat for generations. And I always struggle with it because like when I look at the two parties in America and the issues that they support, to me, it feels quite random. Like I can find things that I agree with and disagree with on both sides. Right. It's very random to me. Like I don't actually understand where these parties, like how do people decide on what are the priorities? Like to me, it's like personally, I find myself being very socially liberal, and like when it comes to economic or finance, I'm very conservative, right? And this, I mean, this, so the left and the right in America, it doesn't fulfill my needs either. And I mean, it sounds like you're saying that
very similar
situation, right?
Yeah, actually, I had a talk with my friend who lived in United States when he was still was a kid, and we talked about this year's presidential election of United States, and we both of us agree if we were Americans, we will move Texas and being a Republican. Because I support gun right. I support the Second Amendment. I admire the founding, the original national founding spirit of that. So I think actually that's so I don't know that's so inside paradise because when I was living in New York, yeah, well, we both went there before, and California, yeah, I feel super comfortable. People are friendly, and we can public support or not support anything, and nobody ban you. Yeah, so I know the traditional image or some stereotype about Republican and or Democrat, but I think in reality it's complicated. Actually there's one thing very interesting. Until now I didn't dare to say something about I support President Trump in the chat box on the WhatsApp with my NYU classmates because they're all super supporting Biden. Yeah, but I cannot explain to them why I don't like Trump for person, but I support his policy. I support his national security because I'm Taiwanese, so I just care about their foreign policy. I don't care maybe less, not at all, to support a Republican. But I also have that image, the talk with my friend. If we were Americans, I think we are actually gentle or not that conservative Republican. We will support some policy or issue on Democrat way, but basically, I guess we will be Republicans. Yeah, so that's complicated when you trying to align with some issue or policy. There's not black or white. There's not bipolar things. Yeah, people are complicated. So I really annoying about the recently some argument attack on the internet. The people have different opinion with you, and you're trying to get some netizen to grabbing some attack on the internet. I don't think that's democracy. I feel shame about that. When we trying to say something, Taiwan is the best democracy example in Asia, even in the world. But inside our society, those things still happen. Yeah, so I think we still have much space to make progress on our democracy.
Can we go back to a moment? So you just joined the youth league of the KMT.
Yeah.
And what did you like about the KMT? What did you not like about it? What did you think you could change? And sort of how were you trying to change it?
Oh, well, that's a long story. Actually, rather than I say I like KNT or I poor KNT,
I mean, which parts? Because like I don't want it to be so binary.
Yeah,
right. Like, because I mean, we're forced into this binary thing. But what I'm trying to get at is, what were the parts of the KMT that you liked, and then what were the parts that you didn't like and you felt you could change? And then what I'm most interested in is like the tools and the organizing of how you thought you could change it. If you could talk a bit about that.
Yeah, I think it must back to some personal history, because when I still remember when I was 3 or 4, the first 2 historical comic book I read is War Between Chu and Han, Chu Han Xiangzhen, and Struggle Life Story of Chengiz Han. Yeah, so I think the
I have no idea what this is.
Yeah, so-called Greater Chinese-ism.
These are comic books, you said?
Yeah, it is a historic comic book. In Taiwan,
you would read historical comic books?
Yeah, when I was
like I read
3
Batman
and 4.
So the reason why I'm going to history department in college, I think maybe. Anyway, but the point is, back in the time, there's some kind of seed of thought already implanted in my heart, and it's grown up by the time.
Wait a minute. So are you saying that you identify yourself as a Chinese?
Both
person?
Taiwanese.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Culturally and maybe ethnic and Chinese, but I also Taiwanese because I born here, I raised here, I grown up here. Yeah, I just Taiwan meeting Taiwan Zui.
So for someone that's not Taiwanese and not Chinese, like a white guy like me,
global audience,
can you explain how this is possible? Like,
how can you identify yourself both as a Chinese and a Taiwanese?
I don't think that's difficult, because if some people come from everywhere in the world, they can say they are world citizen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right? And then why can you understand I have double agreement or some kind of double identity for myself? Yeah, I don't think that's a very difficult thing. But I think there's still a little different. Let me explain that deeper, because there's 2 kinds of nationalism. One is citizen nationalism, one kind of ethnic nationalism. So for the ethnic part, I think I'm Chinese. I speak in Mandarin. Yeah, my father comes from Mainland China. But for the national things or legal label, I'm citizen of the Republic of China, aka Taiwan. So when we use the term Taiwanese or Chinese, actually we have to be very clear what is the context of our term when we use that, because I found so many people just mix it or just judge it in a very swallow way. So I must be clear. When I say Taiwan and Chinese, it doesn't mean I support the PRC. Yeah, the ROC and PRC is another issue. Yeah, so
you mean like as a person you feel Chinese? Like so,
like culturally, he identifies with the Chinese culture.
So put aside the political stuff, like the people you feel more identifiable with mainland Chinese people, like as an ethnicity. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, Taiwan is unique about this. Like in America, like we're all foreigners in America. Everybody came. I mean, there are like some Indians, like Native American Indians, but this is like extreme minority. Yeah.
Yeah, but how do you define who is American? We have the same issue. We have an Aboriginal here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes some Taiwanese always say we are the master of Taiwan. I always think, have you ever asked Aborigine back to 300 years ago when Han people, immigrants?
I can understand the politics aside.
Yeah.
So he, if I understand correctly, he identifies with the Chinese culture.
Yeah.
Which dates back to 5,000 years ago, right?
The Chinese history.
You're right. The history, the stories, the writing system, the reading system, right? But now we put in the politics.
Yeah, even we go into a politics, there's still so many definition. We have to be very clear. When I mentioned I'm the citizen, I just I just trying to say I'm a citizen of Taiwan, but suddenly I find out that's wrong because there's no country. Sorry, folks, there's no still a country. There's a legal name named Taiwan. We don't have a Republic of Taiwan yet. For now, even President Tsai used the term that makes use Republic of China, Taiwan, or by Ken, he said, my personal side, I would say Republic of China on Taiwan because Taiwan is a geographic name and the ROC is a country's name. There's still different idea and concept in different label. Yeah. So when I say I'm a Taiwanese, I think there's a more simple way to very quickly to explain to the foreign people where I come from. But if we want to go deeper to some serious political issues, I will try to explain that. Yeah, that's very interesting. Every time I go into a foreign abroad, when we trying to
like at NYU,
get our passport.
Yeah, what was that like? Like when you were in NYU talking with people, what would you say?
Yeah, actually, back in my year 2017, there was 2 Taiwanese people getting to NYU IR. One is me, one is my classmate who is a girl. And when she introduced herself, she say, I come from Taiwan. And when the turn go on me, I say, I come from Republic of China, aka Taiwan. And back in the same time, there's over 10 classmates who's come from mainland China. I'm not trying to provoking or angering them, but I'm trying to make clarify.
Oh, so how did they react to your introduction?
Actually, some of them are very friendly. Some of them are actually support ROC rather than PRC. Oh. That's very interesting. Yeah, first overseas Chinese, they have so many different opinions.
Okay, can you explain that difference for me? So you say they support ROC instead of PRC.
Oh,
again, dumb this down for a foreigner. What does that mean? Why is it important?
Okay, every time when I go to when I go abroad and in the airport, I trying to explain to their staff back in Chinese Civil War because they don't understand my passport. They say a Republic of China, but I have to explain to him I come from Taiwan. So I think that's one of the reasons why the government trying to change the cover of passport to make people easier to understand where we truly come from. And back to NYU, actually, so many overseas Chinese or the Chinese student who study overseas, they have a more liberal style. They are more, I don't know how to say, higher education level. They graduate from best college or university in Tsinghua, Beida, Renmin Dashi, something like that. And actually, their eyes open. Their horizon is higher than the average of Chinese people. So we can communicate and talk with each other peacefully. They understand the history. They understand the political dilemma we're facing right now. But after all, we are already here in the center of war, New York. So just put the argument aside. Let's go to karaoke. Yeah. Yeah, that's the way we solve the problem.
By singing?
Singing or drinking. Yeah.
Singing or drinking.
Drinking more affective than, anything.
I learned to not try to outdrink the Chinese.
Oh,
can you ever outdrink the Chinese?
No way.
I think they're trained young.
Not every one of them is really good at that. So just be brave.
So you talked about how you identify with the Chinese culture and history, but you also said that it doesn't mean you support the PRC. I think it's very important because China and the PRC are different. And I think that's why so many politicians right now, when they are speaking in English, they will specify that, I'm talking about the communist China.
Yes.
So what do you think about the fact that China has so many missiles targeting at Taiwan, and then their military aircraft are patrolling over our territorial air almost every day? And right now, KMT, one of the political parties that you support or supported, is actually pretty pro-China. So what do you think about it? And what do you think our audience should think about it? Because in fact, although China doesn't have a lot of missiles targeting at the United States or sending military aircraft to
Yes.
patrol your territorial air. There are a lot of spies online, and there are a lot of cyber
Yes.
attacks. And there was a news report 2 days ago saying that half of the Facebook surveillance team are Chinese people holding H-1B visas working in the United States. So while Facebook is listening to all of our conversations, half of the surveillance team are Chinese people. So what do you think Taiwanese audience should think about it, and what our global audience should think more about it?
Okay, for your question, first question on military, on the missiles. As a IR specialist, I have to say, I'm not trying to convince or spare every idea, but actually, I have to say, back in old time, I also, people asking me the same question about they have a missile pointing out to Taiwan. How could you to make peaceful talk with them? But actually, technically, militarily, I have to say, actually, the most of those missiles are not really pointing out for Taiwan. They are for some overseas targets, or especially for the United States. I didn't mean they are not threatening Taiwan. Of course, they are. Yeah. So for me personally, even I went to mainland many times. I have a connection there, whatever my father's or my personal connection. But I'm anti-communist. I definitely fight against the CCP trying to invade or want to ruin Taiwan in the future. I'm totally 100% against that. But so it's make it harder in a KNT position to trying to promote a peaceful talk, just like the good old days. Yeah, we can shake hand and doing some business. But maybe I think actually on this point I have a little disagreement with the higher level people in KNT, because most of them still believe if we back to the 92 consensus and we can back in good old days and we can doing business and shake hand together, and we're not going to war because the war will hurt Taiwan's people and Taiwan cannot defend alone, blah blah blah. I believe many of you already heard those points, but I think the first important element is the attitude change of CCP, because when they have a new leadership, which I mean specifically is President Xi, he's trying to make tougher and tougher than before. Back in Hu Jintao and Wen Jiabao's time, we can have a lot space in political circle or in the civil society. Even mainland China, they have a new trend, new fashion about everything from Taiwan. It's good. We like ROC parade in mainland China, and people dress Shanghai style. And when they graduation, they like ROC, they like Taiwan so much. But recently, for these 5 years, we obviously we can sense the attitude of change. They're trying to tougher and tougher to use military power or the anything, nothing but soft power to push us onto the corner. So it's made KNT's position very embarrassing, because we don't want to fight. I didn't mean we don't have the resolve to defend Taiwan. For me personally, I'm a military officer, reserve officer. If war happen, I have to go to the front line. Yeah, I don't afraid of that. But actually, the highest principle of military is peace. Yeah, we keep the military. It's not really to fight. It's to keep peace. Yeah. However, I know it's more difficult than before, and we harder and harder to convince people we don't have to fight with China, especially recent situation as you just mentioned. So I think for KNT right now, they're still trying to doing some talk, but I think more and more people, including our new chairman, I think finally they already find out that's useless. They're trying to turn the focus on the Taiwan civil society. They're trying to focus on more internal affair issue. Just put the cross-strait relation issue aside to the government. Even though now their DPP is the ruling party, they have to take the responsibility. So we don't have to provoking or doing something not really necessary right now. So I think still back to your question, back to your main point of your question, I think for a long time still, maybe in the future 2 to 4 years, I think the situation between China and US and between the three will keep the same and harder for KNT. So I'm not really sure which policy line the KNT will be aligned with in the future, because right now what they think is Trump administration in the United States have agreement with the Tsai administration. So as far as I know, so many people in KNT they hope the Biden will be get elected. So the situation between U.S., China, and Taiwan can went back to the good old day, just like a big triangle, and Taiwan can have much more space to get along with China.
Okay.
But it's not. It's gone. It's not back anymore.
I want to fill in some information here. I pointed out the military threat because it's so obvious. But in fact, Taiwan is not only under military threat. And I think it's a good, it serves as a great opportunity to point out to our audience or to remind our audience what Taiwan has been doing for world peace, or what Taiwan has been doing for protecting democracy. I have no intention in portraying the communist China as a belligerent political power or a very belligerent regime, although it poses military threat. I think the reason why I'm against Communist Party is because it violates so many universal human rights. Okay, so not only gay rights or women's rights, but also the rights of the minorities or many different things. But the thing is, Taiwan is important because geographically, if Taiwan is a part of China, then without sending aircraft or aircraft carriers, China can project its military force to Guam and Hawaii.
Yep. Second island chain.
Right. So that is why Taiwan is so important to China as a strategic position. But also, Taiwan has so many high-tech factories and companies. And then Taiwan is so well connected with the financial world and the technology world. So if one day Taiwan becomes China's, then you can think about all of the technology espionage scandals recently, right? For example, Huawei stealing information from everywhere, and then Chinese employees taking trade secrets from the U.S. companies that they're working for. If China ever overtakes Taiwan, then the world democracy will be undermined significantly. So I think it's very important for us, the only democracy in Asia, to tell the world how difficult it is to safeguard these values, including democracy and human rights and technology development.
I can't agree with you more. But one little point, we are not only democracy in Asia. I think Japanese will protesting about that.
Korea too, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
Korea.
the Taiwanese
I
think of Korea.
I know your point.
Okay,
I know your point.
Let me
Yeah.
rephrase. One of the earliest,
The most interesting democracy.
Okay,
Interesting. Okay.
right.
Yeah, but I'm sure you.
The first.
Yeah. First, yeah, that's ROC. Yeah. Anyway, back to your main point. I think I totally agree with you, and I'm sure you. The topic you are talking about actually is my main concern, and that's also the reason why I went to United States to study international relations. Because back in my time, I working in the presidential office, I realized back in that time, in the same time I was studying cross-strait relation in the National Taiwan University, and after that work, after graduation, I realized the cross-strait relation is not just involving Taiwan and mainland China; it's involving the factory of international situation, and especially United States. So that's the reason why I went there. But when I went there, I met so many higher officer, advisor in think tank or formal government. I sadly find out I don't really believe or sure the United States have enough resolve or resource to defend Taiwan, even though what you're talking about is totally true and they know it. For example, 2018, there is a forum be held in CSIS and Brookings in Washington, D.C. It's called 2 year under Tsai, a review of the BP administration, and so many all the best Taiwanese scholar in the U.S. come together and ask them one question, because I just retired from the military and I worry about, because in the U.S. think tank, that every day I heard about the U.S. how U.S. can defend the first island chain, especially Taiwan. But back in that time, I also went to China to listen their voice. And in the Chinese think tank, the topic always, how do we break through the first island chain on Taiwan? So Taiwan become the center of storm, which is why I'm very worried about. I'm concerned so much. So I bring this question to those scholars, but they tell me they have no answer and they're not sure. They just promised me so many people working on it to trying to defend Taiwan. But when we're talking about the price they're gonna pay, actually I'm not really sure about. Yeah, I'm not trying to undermine so many people's effort and working hard from US and all over the world to defend Taiwan. The point I want to say is Taiwan cannot rely on other people's help. As President and some our officer in government say, we must standing out for ourselves and help ourselves. We cannot rely on others' help, whatever US or other allies. So I think Taiwanese must be realistic. We can rely on, because so many people say U.S. Army will come, they will help us, they will come out here from ground, from everywhere their base in East Asia. But I have to say, with what I learned in United States, personally meet with them, and the sound theory and the information from the class and think tank, I have to say, the military power balance in East Asia between China and U.S. has been already come to preferring toward China more and more. So also that's the reason why U.S. government is so concerned. From their national security report, from their White House strategy report, they always point out China has been most important and most certain strategic competitor. They're trying to, just like what you mentioned, they're trying to project their power over Taiwan to the second island chain and so forth. So I think Taiwan now is very dangerous. We really need to consolidate and come together to defend Taiwan. So I think KNT must be realized. The people's will in Taiwan. We don't want war, but we also against and opposite the ruling of CCP. So we have to find kind of third way, because according to some polls, even though most of Taiwanese people don't want to fight, don't want to war, and don't want to be ruled by CCP in the same time, but there's an interesting thing is, if the war gonna happen, over 50% Taiwanese people want to negotiate in peaceful way with Mainland China. Only around 20% they want to go to battlefield. That's also another reality. The Taiwanese and our society and also our international friends, they need to know. Yeah, we cannot judge our foreign policy or just go to war very easily by some idealistic fantasy. For example, let Taiwan be Taiwan. Of course, I'm Taiwanese. I know Taiwan is important, and we are very proud of being Taiwanese. Recently, I always think we have a very interesting talk with friend. If you die, if you believe people have an afterlife and you're gonna reborn in somewhere else in this world, oh my God, you have just 1 in 2,000 of 200 or 5,000. Anyway, very low chance to be Taiwanese again. So cherish you being Taiwanese in this life. Yes.
I want to put aside the physical war for a bit and go into information and information war, information control. And is there anything that the rest of the world can learn from Taiwan on this topic?
Okay, I think as far as many people know, I think Taiwan may be the longest and maybe highest level under information warfare attack in the world, because actually according to our government report, every month we got over 200 to 400 million type attack from the black hat hacker, and surely most of them come from the other side of the street, which is from Mainland China. So of course, we have a circle of information circle people. They are concerned about that, and they always say, actually, we have so many good information security talented in Taiwan, but we don't have a comprehensive strategy for now still to grab those people into a framework of to keep our whole Taiwan society to be a highly information security area, because those people after they graduate they cannot find a really good job, high salary in Taiwan, because we don't have those kind of mature industry of information security. So in the end, they maybe go to California or somewhere else in the world. So that's first one question. But second one, for the whole society, especially for civilian and normal people, I think the most important thing is media literacy, because for now, especially under the influence of information warfare from the last year's presidential election, I think many people from Taiwan already sense and realize the daily news or information we receive, they are not really 100% true. But the problem is how we can have ability or enough time or sense to learn how to distinguish them from the so-called fake news or some other misinformation. I think we don't have, even me, I'm graduate school. I don't dare to say I have enough sense and ability to judge whether it's true or not. So I think the media literacy and information security literacy is the highly concerned. I think whether the government or the NGO, actually our NGO doing great. For example, some NGOs in Taiwanese society and the information circle, for example, G0V, they're doing
Zero.
They do some very awesome job to trying to promote, for example, open data or the media literacy or some other things to do with information warfare, to trying to promote Taiwanese people to know those things much more than before. But we still have a long way to go. I think the most emergency is that, the first thing is you have to sense that we are already under information warfare. But actually, I don't believe the most of people of Taiwan already understand about this.
I hope that, in the next 5 years, that Taiwan, so right now the U.S. sells weapons, like physical weapons, to Taiwan. I hope that Taiwan can sell information weapons to the U.S. so we can defend ourselves, because I think the U.S. media is just blowing up right now.
I'm not sure. I won't say we have weaponized things and we can sell or provide it to the United States, because basically we are anti information warfare and trying to weaponize those IT tool as a tool to attack other people. So officially, we won't say we can provide something like that to
defense.
But on the defense way, I think we still have so many talented and the way and the software to trying to make our firewall better, to keep it to prevent Taiwan society from outside wars attack on the purpose. Especially, actually, last week, our former chief of Cross-strait committee, Mr. Zhao, Professor Zhao, they say we are already under some kind of cross-strait warfare status, 准战争状态. We are already under warfare, because it's not about gun, it's not about missile, it's about in our computer. We are already under that warfare. So I think most Taiwanese people needs to know that, and our government need to raise this issue under national security label, to promote our sense of information security.
Great. Thank you very much for coming to the show and sharing with us your insight.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've talked about topics that I think a lot of people are very passionate about. If somebody wanted to follow up, if our listeners wanted to learn more, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Okay. Recently I opened a public FB page. It's called Digitizing Alfred Lin. So if you want to connect with me or contact or any invitation, just go ahead on the Facebook page, Digitizing Alfred Lin. Thank you so much.
Alfred, thank you.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Yeah.
Have a nice day. Did you enjoy the talk?
Yeah, it wasn't what I expected it was going to be.
Oh, what did you expect?
Well,
There was a lot of history, right?
there's a lot of history. I thought we were going to spend like 80% of our time talking about like information warfare. And almost all the time we were talking about like physical warfare, like guns and missiles and, defense and pointing things at each other.
Which is not bad. I think that most people don't understand what Taiwan has been going through. So, it's different from our expectation, but I think it's a great opportunity for our audience to understand how aggressive China is on this side of the Pacific.
Yeah, and it was also interesting to me to try to understand how the next generation is looking at politics and trying to understand how to organize differently. I mean, he was trying to make this app that I guess Obama made. That was all new to me. I didn't even know Obama had this app.
Would you want to use that
Hell
app?
no. No way.
Yeah, I was trying to... These gadgets were a little bit blocking today, but I was trying to see, how you react to the app.
No way.
Do you want to know that your neighbors are Democrats and then they're going to the next campaign? Or
like, I think like if I knew people's political beliefs, it would almost be like if you're sitting around the table and everybody's naked. It's like you just don't want to see that, right? Like it would just be the weirdest, most awkward, most uncomfortable thing.
I don't picture people being naked. I picture them wearing a big hat.
Oh.
Like a blue or a different color hat.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I like your idea. I like that in the end, you said that Taiwan should export solutions.
Oh, I really think so.
I think that's a great idea. I think we should monetize our experience.
I think it's hugely valuable.
Yeah.
I mean, the U.S. military is selling weapons everywhere. Why isn't Taiwan selling defenses for digital information warfare?
There's a very interesting story in the Chinese history, in China's history. I think dates back to 3,000 years ago. So two sides were going into war. And then this side needs more weapons. They need arrows at that time to shoot their enemies. So at nighttime, they built boat with a lot of scarecrows.
Scarecrows?
Yeah. Dude, scarecrows?
Yeah.
Yeah. So fake people, dummies on the boat. So, and then their enemy thinks that, there are so many soldiers on the boats, shoot them. So overnight, they collected thousands of arrows.
Oh, that is
free
awesome.
of charge.
That is so cool.
So this is what Taiwan should do.
Absolutely.
Right? We've been attacked for so long. We should monetize this experience and expertise.
Big data.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean, in my fantasy world, Israel and Taiwan would join forces. And they would create this technology that would enable democracies to resist information, like information attacks, like foreign or domestic. Okay. So right now, like the media in the US is just, it's off their rails. Like things are getting attacked everywhere. And so it's not just the foreign stuff, it's also the domestic stuff. But I feel like Israel and Taiwan should get together.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think this guy has a lot of courage.
Oh, true.
Yeah. I mean, first off, I tried to do a podcast in Chinese a couple days ago, and it was so hard. And his English is better than my Chinese, and my Chinese is bad, trying to talk about the complicated things. And so he spent an hour talking to us about not only complicated things, but things that the majority of the youth probably listening to this are going to disagree to. So I think he just has a lot of courage. So I really admire that.
And I think we should encourage that.
Yeah.
Because he also said that he doesn't agree with the KMT all the time. So by upholding diversity, we should encourage people to voice their different opinions.
Yeah, I totally hope so. I mean, there's very few conversations, dialogues where you can actually engage with different perspectives. And like, I mean, he's just a person. He's just like anybody else, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there more questions that you wanted to ask him? Because
I had a bunch.
The translator side of me
Yeah.
wanted to jump out like every 3 minutes, giving the audience more information about KMT, about the president, about the then president and the current president and the policies, because I was not sure if our audience could understand all that.
There was this thread that I really wanted to pull on longer, and it was hard for me to get him to kind of go there.
Misinformation?
No. It's about, I would say, passion and extremes, and about like ideology and pragmatism and like being rational versus being like emotional. And I feel like there's something so important to him about sort of the pragmatic, rational thing of having a cross-strait relationship that, I mean, it's your trading partner. They're your next door neighbor. Like, how would you not try to have a relationship with them? So there's the very like pragmatic, rational side to him. And I feel that most of politics has switched entirely to this like emotional thing. Like people are just talking about the emotions. It's not, fake news is just whatever the other party says. It's not like is it true or not. It's just if they say something, it's fake news. If you say something, it's truth. Right? And so I really wanted to like dig into that more, but it was hard. I didn't feel like he was
ready.
No, I don't even think he understood that. Perhaps like maybe to him it's just natural.
Right. When you talked about it, he said it's more philosophical.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. What did that mean?
It means that he never gave it enough time.
Yeah. I mean, he was reading comic books about Chinese history.
Yeah, at 3.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even get to Batman until probably 6 or 7, you know?
My baby is turning 3 at the end of the year. So I was thinking, what? Should I give him comic books now?
No, please no. Yeah. I had a bunch of other questions around core beliefs. So I feel that parties were established with a set of core beliefs, and these core beliefs just don't reflect the reality of the world anymore.
Right. Especially maybe for the KMT.
It feels like it, right?
Yeah, because it was established in 100 years ago. Over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
When its target was an empire. So the KMT was founded to establish a democracy.
They were trying to do a democracy, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting.
But right now the world has changed so much.
Do you think that's why he's so, like, does he really love this idea of democracy? Is that what motivates him, you think?
We can ask him.
Yeah.
I cannot answer the question
Yeah.
on his behalf.
Yeah. I also wanted to try to get more into his head about this meeting with
President Ma and President
Right?
Xi. I know.
I mean, he was there. Like, that must have been the most
Yeah, and they didn't
intense.
need a translator. So there was no way people like me could get into that conversation because they were speaking Chinese.
Yeah.
The two of them. So, yeah, that was like one of the very few historical events that I didn't have access to. So
Yeah. And just like what it felt like being in that room. Like what it felt like watching those two people talk.
I was trying to get him to talk more about it when I say 汉贼不两立.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Oh, 汉贼不两立. It was addressed by Xiaowei in our last episode, and it means that two regimes who claim the same territory should not be present at the same time.
Oh, interesting.
So, for example, if someone says he is the president of the United States, someone else, someone different, he's right now the president of the United States, then it would be very weird for this person to be standing next to President Trump, right?
Yeah.
If both of them claim to be legitimate.
It's just like having too many cooks in the kitchen. Like when you have, like for me, like if my wife
Two
and my
drivers
mom,
in the same car.
yeah, are in the kitchen together, it's bad.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So from that philosophy, it doesn't make sense.
Did
for
both
President
sides know that though? I mean, do you think they were both thinking about this?
He said that they avoided calling each other president. They didn't say, hello, President Ma, hello, President Xi. They said, hello or good morning, Mr. Ma and Mr. Xi.
Was that out of respect, out of fear, out of
fear for controversy, right? He said that they wanted to avoid controversial conversations or consequences.
And the other thing that I've always tried to get out of Taiwanese that I haven't felt that I've been successful is, how do we look outward? So there's all of these amazing...
You never asked me. But okay.
We need to talk about this one because like our last two guests, I don't feel that they're thinking about, hey, like there is this special thing in that it's a modern democracy. Modern as in really like the last 20, 30 years. And I mean, I'm from a democracy that's 300 years, right? And so like you have this new modern democracy, and what the heck can the world learn from you? Right? Like, I mean, there's so much that I feel like there's so much gold here, so much really interesting things that need to be exported, need to be shared. And I mean, we've had two guests now that are political, and it's pretty obvious that all of their thought, I shouldn't say all, but 99.9999 of their thought, percent of their thought is like inward focused. At least that's the way it comes off to me.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. I think most Taiwanese people tend to think that we need to learn from other people or we need to learn from other countries. But in fact, Taiwan has been very advanced in many different domains. And then there are lessons learned that we can share with other people, other countries. So, yeah.
Because even looking at COVID-19 and the lessons that Taiwan is sharing now with the rest of the world, to me at least, I was like, no, that's not the interesting thing. That's not really what happened. And so just this ability to explain the system and how it was created and what it does and explain it in a way that the rest of the world can adopt. Like, I feel like this is, I mean, they just have this hashtag Taiwan can help.
Yeah.
Help with what? like, I mean, what does that even mean? I mean, no offense to the people that created Taiwan can help, but it's like...
I think the hashtag was created to initiate conversation and discussions and curiosity and to arouse curiosity at first.
Yeah, from my perspective, it's like, it doesn't arouse anything. I look at it and I'm like, come on.
So you know Audrey Tang created that.
I think she's awesome. She's amazing.
Yeah, I know. We should tag her.
Yeah.
And then let her know that it aroused nothing in you.
Well, like, I mean, it should be just, hey, go get this tool, right?
Oh, like, downloadable PDF here.
Yeah.
Downloadable apps here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like,
accessible resources right here.
Like maybe they expect like politicians to fly over and then Taiwan helps train them or something. But to me, it's like the people need the tools that Taiwan has. And so just like Taiwan can help, it's like, I mean, what is an American going to ask? Hey, Taiwan, how are you going to help? Like, how can you help? Like, I didn't even know, like, help with what?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should talk more about this in our next episodes. And then before the guests come to our show, we should let them know in pre-meetings that, this is what we want our audience to know.
Cool. Sounds good. Yeah, I had a bunch more questions, but maybe we'll save those for another day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so stay tuned. This podcast is brought to you by Bitmark and Girls in Tech Taiwan.
So Bitmark was founded from the belief that data is the next major asset class. And so what Bitmark does is create tools for individuals to gain control and access over their data and eventually unlock all kinds of new value in that data.
Girls in Tech Taiwan is the Taiwan chapter of a global nonprofit focused on the engagement, education, and empowerment of influential women in technology and entrepreneurship.